most of us already know that Joe Biden is a crook and that he exploits his family members in order to monetize his political power. But what everybody didn't know is just exactly how aggressively Twitter and Facebook, as well as the FBI, serve as an appendage of the Democrat Party. The word has gotten around, and by now I'm sure most of you already know that there's a smoking gun regarding Joe Biden's involvement with his son Hunter's Ukraine shenanigans. From the New York Post story that the liberal establishmentarians don't want you to read, Hunter Biden introduced his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, to a top executive at the Ukrainian energy firm less than a year before the elder Biden pressured government officials in Ukraine into firing a prosecutor who was investigating the company according to emails obtained by the Post. Now, this is not news to those of us who have been paying attention for the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, we've known about this for a long time. What is news? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, that the FBI has had this information for over 6-7 months and didn't do anything with it. And also that Facebook and Twitter are refusing to publish it, which gives me an indication to know that they know this stuff is damaging. Now, I didn't have any trouble posting these articles from the New York Post on my Facebook account, but take a look at what happens when I try to put it up on Twitter. At the bottom, it says, "We cannot complete this request because this link has been identified by Twitter or our partners as being potentially harmful. Oh, visit our help center to learn more." Oh, kiss my ass. Harmful. Yeah, to Joe Biden's political career and Hunter Biden's reputation, his stellar reputation. Twitter is actually claiming that they have a policy in place whereby they do not publish stories that have been acquired through hacking. Oh, I think my bullshit detector is going off. Bullshit. Hacking. Really? Jack Dorsey, do you expect us to believe this bullshit, my friend? I mean, did Twitter have any problem publishing stories about Donald Trump's tax records? I don't seem to recall Twitter or Jack Dorsey or anybody asking the question of how that information was acquired. And besides, the Post didn't get this story by hacking anything. In fact, nobody hacked a thing. The computer was dropped off at a computer repair shop. It was never picked up. It becomes property of the guy who owns the computer store. That's the way this stuff works, folks. What I really love about this is the irony of the whole thing. With Facebook and Twitter refusing to publish these articles from the Post on their respective social media sites, they've actually drawn more attention to this story than it would have had if they had allowed it to be shared. What do they always say? The cover-up is actually worse than the crime itself. And really, seriously, I'm telling you, more mainstream media news outlets and local news outlets are actually covering this story from the angle of Twitter and Facebook refusing to publish the stories about it. So it's actually reaching a larger audience than Twitter and Facebook have anyway. And it looks like Twitter and Facebook are going to have to answer questions in front of Congress and explain to them exactly why this isn't a violation of campaign finance laws. So it's kind of worth it in that regard. And if there was any doubt in anybody's mind that all of the stuff that we've heard about Burisma Holdings, about Hunter Biden, about Joe Biden, and all of the corruption and shenanigans going on, if there was any doubt in your mind, it should all be clear to you now. Everything you heard, everything we heard is true, except anything that you heard from Joe Biden or the lamestream media. None of this was ever debunked. None of this was ever proven to be false, ever. There was never an investigation into this at all, other than in Ukraine. There was a Ukrainian investigation into it, but there was never an official government investigation here in the United States into Burisma Holdings and Hunter Biden's employment or Joe Biden's involvement. And quite frankly, I think there's more than enough evidence here to warrant a full investigation, a real investigation, and also an investigation into the FBI and why they have covered this up. We deserve to know the truth about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and what was really going on here. But in the meantime, don't be thinking that Joe Biden is going to go to jail or anybody else is going to go to jail over this anytime soon, because that's just not going to happen. What's most important, and our focus here should be on the election and how this will affect the election in just a couple of weeks. I suggest everybody share this video and any information. In fact, down below, I'm going to put links up here to those New York Post articles where you can actually read all of this stuff yourself if you haven't already. And one of the emails, I think one of the most damning emails is this one. Take a look. This particular email is from Vadim Pozharsky, and he is specifically writing to thank Hunter Biden for introducing him to his father, Joe Biden. Thank you for inviting me to D.C. and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together. Now, this is important because obviously the meeting happened. This is after the fact. He says, thank you for inviting me to meet your father, the opportunity to meet and spent time together. In other words, this is after coming to, obviously, the United States and meeting with Joe Biden. It's really an honor and a pleasure, he says. As we spoke yesterday evening, it would be great to meet with you today for a quick coffee. So this is April 17th of 2015. He's wanting to meet with, but this is after meeting with Joe Biden. This is after actually meeting the vice president. Now, it's worth noting that the Joe Biden campaign has officially responded to all this and claimed that they went back through all of his records when he was vice president there around that time in 2015, and they could find no record of him having a meeting with anyone from Burisma in the Ukraine. Look, of course not. Of course not. You know, if you got a little shenanigans going on the side, you're vice president. You're not going to log that meeting. You're not going to log that meeting with anybody. So naturally, there's not going to be any record of it. Duh. I mean, Joe Biden's an idiot, but he's not that big of an idiot. There's so much in these articles. It's actually a series of articles at the New York Post, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's another email from the same guy, Pozharsky, specifically asking Hunter's advice on how he can use Hunter's influence to benefit Burisma Holdings. I mean, and this, all of this really flies in the face of Joe Biden's claim that he's never talked to his son or has no information, knows nothing about his overseas business deals. Obviously, that was a lie. But again, like I say, what's most interesting here is the fact that there are photos, actual photos, in these articles from the New York Post of a Delaware federal subpoena that was given to the New York Post that shows that both the computer and the hard drive were seized by the FBI, turned over to the FBI in like December. After the repair shop's owner says that he alerted the feds to the existence of this. Now, he did have a copy of the hard drive. He made a copy of it himself, and he said that he did this because, frankly, he was scared. And I'm glad that he did, because just stop and think about it. If the FBI has had all of this information all that length of time, if it wasn't for the fact that this guy saved all of that information from that hard drive, then passed it on to Rudy Giuliani's attorney, you and I would not know about this. We would never have heard about this. But now go back and think to yourself, what was going on? What was happening in this country around December of last year when the FBI got a hold of this computer? A little something called impeachment. The FBI should be answering some questions too. I mean, the timing is awfully suspicious. They get all this information while the impeachment's going on, and they don't bother telling anybody about it. Oh, and speaking of timing, less than 8 months after this guy, Pozarski, had thanked Hunter Biden in that email for introducing him to his dad, just so happens to coincide with the time when Joe Biden, then vice president, was over in Ukraine, and he makes a little phone call, remember, to the prime minister of Ukraine and says, if you don't fire this prosecutor who just so happened to be investigating Burisma Holdings, if you don't fire this prosecutor, you're not getting that $1 billion in aid.
I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Remember that? Yeah, but we know about that only because Joe Biden's got a big mouth and an arrogant attitude and was bragging about it.
Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Well, thanks for watching. Be sure and like this video, subscribe to my channel, share to your social media, and leave nasty comments below. God bless America, and death to the New World Order.